President Trump is now threatening Apple with an industry-altering ultimatum: either build hundreds of millions of iPhones in the United States or pay tariffs of at least 25% on iPhones that are made overseas. The president says he's not stopping there, making clear that Apple's rivals and some of the biggest tech companies in the world have also been put on notice.
It would be more. It would be also Samsung and anybody that makes that product. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. So anybody that makes that product, and that'll start on, I guess, the end of June. It'll come out. I think we have that appropriately done by the end of June. So if they make that product. Now, again, when they build their plant here, there's no tariff. So they're going to be building plants here.
My source tonight is Patrick McGee, who is the author of Apple in China, the capture of the world's greatest company. And it's great to have you here tonight. I should note, when you're listening to that, Tim Cook actually met with President Trump at the White House this week. It clearly did not, stave off whatever he may have been hoping to do so. Is shifting iPhone production to the United States even possible at this point?
Well, it really isn't, but the pressure that Tim Cook is under is really that he might have to do some semblance of answering that question. So you might have some assembly here. But the bind that Trump is putting on Tim Cook is really extraordinary. Remember, Apple doesn't actually manufacture anything themselves. So it's not even a matter of Tim Cook answering Trump. He would have to convince Foxconn or Luxshare or any number of companies to actually set up a supply chain. And Trump's tweet is interesting that he doesn't just ask for assembly. He is at least savvy enough to understand that just moving assembly wouldn't be enough. That's not the jobs we'd want. We want the higher value added. We want the real de-risking from China. But if you're talking about building the depth and breadth of the supply chain in America, you're talking about hundreds of factories. This is the iPhone, after all. It's a really complex device with 1,000 parts inside.
So if you're an American and you're listening to that and you say, okay, well, why shouldn't it be all completely made in the United States? What would you say to that?
Well, how much more do you want to pay for your iPhone, for starters? But you have to remember that they build 230 million iPhones a year, and this is a really complex product that gets redesigned every year. So it's not like you set up a production line for a car and build the same thing for the next 6 or 7 years. The iPhone has new components, new battery, new cameras every single year. That makes automation really difficult. That makes the whole process really complex. And we just don't have 18 different things. We don't have the density of the population. We don't have the flexibility of the population. We don't have, 3-kilometer square towns that have 500,000 people inside, which is the sort of thing that you get at Foxconn. The U.S. is just not a competitor to so many different things. So I'm really in favor of friendshoring, right? Doing this in Mexico, doing this in India, because doing this in Pittsburgh is ludicrous.
So what does Tim Cook do next year? Do you think he comes out with some kind of announcement in order to essentially try to not let this happen?
Let's remember what he did last time, which is he really ran the clock out on Trump's presidency. So in 2017, I believe it was, Trump announced that Tim Cook had promised to build 3 big, beautiful factories in America. That never came to be. And I think it's going to be difficult for Tim Cook to sort of make the same claim, because Trump's sort of onto him now, that this is someone who talks out the side of his mouth and doesn't actually sort of fulfill the promise. And he's probably wise to the idea that the $500 billion commitment that Apple made in February it doesn't really meet the eye, as it were. That's a lot of money. And the press release saying that it'll build 20,000 jobs doesn't really make any sense. And if it was true, you would have dozens of factories already being put up right now. And some people, when I say that, they say, oh, well, it's only been a few months. No, because that's the second big announcement. In Trump 1.0, Apple announced a $430 billion investment in America. So if those were real numbers, really about reshoring American jobs, you would have seen so much more over the past decade, really, and you really have seen none of it.
Patrick McGee, thank you for joining tonight. Also joining us here, CNN Global